How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses Stonks Edition on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, are still
Fenurian.
Volasel, and soon may the Tindy Man come.
Stonks!
So yeah, that's all anybody's talked about this week. And if you would like to talk to us about stonks, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvptw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join our Discord server and post your stonks memes, which you can get to by clicking on the link which will be provided in the show description underneath the video archive on YouTube.
Yes, indeedly. So, on the stream today, and I may as well just cover it because it covers a good chunk of my week as well, I'm going to be playing a bit of the Skyrims because it's all Vol's fault. Actually, it's not all Vol's fault, it's only partly Vol's fault.
Ultimately, it's Todd Howard's fault, but proximately, it's Gura's fault and then my fault.
Incidentally, I probably should have installed the mod that gives it, changes the regular Dragon Shout to Gura's version. I saw that mod.
There's quite a few HoloLive mods actually, which do various things.
And in case you're wondering, yes, it did just crash. So,
I've only had one crash to desktop so far.
Yeah, I just installed a whole bunch of new mods, so let me just see
But, the one that I liked the most was there's a Dragon Shout modded in, which is Fubuki telling everybody in the area that she's their good friend. And it causes everyone in the immediate area to die of despair.
Oh dear. Let me see if the game's actually going to work. So, it was working right before the show, but you know how these things go. So,
it's one of them laws, isn't it?
It is. It definitely is. So, yeah, I saw Vol was talking about playing Skyrim again last week, and it's like everyone else on my friends list was listening to it because suddenly everyone was playing Skyrim. So I've just installed a whole bunch of new mods. Okay, now it's working. After I spent a good chunk of this week installing mods upon mods upon mods. Did it crash again? Nope, there it goes. So, yeah, I find it's just a permanent death spiral for Skyrim. Is you start off, you install some mods, you play for a bit, and then you see something that desperately needs a new mod. And half of the time, if you want to install a game-changing mod, you need to start a new game to go with it.
I don't. I just let the errors pile up.
Yeah. What race should I play for this new one? Actually, I've got an unarmed build. Maybe I'll do that. In that case, it's a Khajiit.
Khajiit, the only ones that have bonus to armed, right?
I got one that actually improves on racial bonuses as well. So Khajiit, I think, are the only ones who get it out of the gate.
Yeah, the unarmed I felt was deeply underserved because they've got I think that there's an enchant that you can get for gloves that increases your punching damage and stuff, but that's pretty much the only thing that's supported in game for unarmed combat. Like, there's no tree for it, and there's no way to improve it with level or anything.
Yeah, there's the unique item, Gloves of the Pugilist.
Right, yeah, I remember that.
And that's it.
Not impressed.
So, yeah.
Missed opportunity. But, I mean, everything that Bethesda fails at is usually picked up by a modder sooner or later.
I'll just go with the Tiger Cat, man. That'll do. I tend not to worry too much about the appearance of my character because you never see your character.
Yeah, well, there's very little customization option unless you download a mod to improve character customization anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I generally just go for passable looking is usually sufficient for me.
Yeah. So yeah, had to go the Guru reference because, of course, I am the Catman. And now, for the usual benefit of modded Skyrim is now I just stand around for 5 minutes while the mods sort themselves out.
I haven't had any such issues. Like, everything has just been butter smooth for me. I don't know how many mods I've got equipped, probably about 24.
Yeah, I've got
But,
87.
What do they do?
A lot of them are just new content. Now, the mod
I don't like download content ones myself until I'm cleared all the content I feel like doing that's already by default in there.
Yeah. Now, after my last foray into Skyrim, I did discover a mod which I find is pretty much what I need now, and that is Legacy of the Dragon Ball, which just loaded up there. What it does is, well, as you play Skyrim, you tend to accumulate a whole lot of crap. Which you can ultimately dump off on vendors, but sometimes you just want to keep some of the shiny things. What Legacy of the Dragonborn does is says, okay, here's a museum. Fill it with crap. And
I see. So it's basically like a big player residence. with a lot of
Essentially, yeah.
space.
There's also a guild and a quest line attached to it as well. A proper, actual quest line, not just this little, the quest is come to place, get the thing. Incidentally, there's a few Creation Club items I've got in there as well, which I don't think actually count to the master mod list. Creation Club is... it's still awful, admittedly, but things rotate free as a free item on there often enough. You can go in there like once a week and just get stuff. Oh, it crashed again. Right, okay, well this isn't going to work.
You should have thought about this beforehand, I think.
I should have, but no, I was very late actually getting into the show today because my sister decided she was going to call it exactly the wrong moment. In that case, let me set something else up. Delete that. Add this. And that one. That's the one I want.
Ooh, the red vampire armor. I'll use that instead.
Nice. Yeah. It could be, again, that, game capture doesn't play nice with anything. So, instead of that, on the stream today, I'm just going to play a bit of Last Oasis footage instead.
That's the desert one, right?
That's the desert one where you walk around on your giant wooden spiders.
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway, so that's been a good chunk of my week, is just playing around with Skyrim mods, installing them, and, as you can see, breaking things.
Yeah, I could only ever run a X number of mods before I started getting paranoid that something was going to go wrong. So whenever I installed mods in Skyrim, I'd have like 4 or 5 installed at a time, not counting the extra textures and skins mod to make the character models not look like Neanderthals.
Your paranoia is not misplaced, but I think it is a little bit off. The number of mods at which things could go wrong is 0.
Yeah. The only mods...
It is a Bethesda game after all.
Yeah. Unless there's a fix-it mod laying around that's necessary for the current Bethesda game.
There is.
Yeah, there
I
always
didn't
is.
install it. I wanted to see whether I could get away without it, and I haven't. I've had exactly one crash to desktop, and it was my fault.
Yeah.
I'll usually keep that installed. I'll keep the Un-Neanderthal Your Humans mod installed, and usually 1 or 2 more. I think the last one I had installed was some kind of kaiju mod that picked random enemies and made them super giant and gave them control paths that were away from the cities. And if you managed to kill them, you got a ton of loot, but they were stupidly hard to kill.
They were also annoyingly sneaky.
They were the size of a skyscraper.
Yeah.
Well, so are Fel Reavers.
Yeah, so are Fel Reavers, exactly. It was the same issue.
Honk!
Honk, squish. Those were the days. But, yeah, Skyrim is... It says a lot about the game. It's 10 years old now. Or it will be at the end of this year.
Todd Howard is still selling it.
Todd Howard is still selling it, but there's a good reason for that. It's because people are still playing it.
Yeah, I don't know what they baked into their special edition. They claim that it's got a bunch of new lighting crap in there, and I can only wonder, is that actually better than what the modders produced though?
No.
No.
But what it does do is it allows it to run as a 64-bit program.
And breaks all existing mods, and so you've got to download them all again.
Yeah, if you go into Skyrim, the Nexus mods page, you've got Skyrim and you've got Skyrim Special Edition, and the mods for base Skyrim, or Oldrim as they call it, might work. Maybe, unless they involve textures or lighting or special effects or anything like that. In which case, no, forget it.
Yeah.
I've just downloaded the most endorsement number lighting overhaul and texture overhaul, and that's just how I do it.
Yeah. Special Edition added an overhaul of the textures to putting them up to, I think, like 500-ish. I don't know, a higher texture resolution than the base game, but that's not saying much.
Well, the fan ones are like 4K textures.
Yeah, and they take forever to download. They're stupidly big.
Just remember, if you're a game company, you can hire all the nice fancy game devs you want, but the internet has the power of autism, and if they've already modded the heck out of your game with texture mods and...
Just hire them. Just hire them already.
Just hire them.
Yeah.
They've done that in the past at Bethesda, haven't they? For people who created giant expansion mods?
Yes, they did for, I believe, the guy who made the Falscar mod. They actually gave him a job. There's another super mod as well, which isn't being actively supported anymore, but you can still download it and use it. I believe they gave that guy a job as well. What is it? Wormfang? Something like that? Actually, I got it in my mods list. Can I actually see it? Yeah. My mods list seems to be wigging out. Why? So I'm glad actually Nexus Mod moved over to their new system, which is Vortex. They were running on Nexus Mod Manager for the longest time, and that program was honestly built out of duct tape and toothpicks.
Vortex has been really good, actually. All its automatic load order sorting and stuff has worked really well. Very few errors for me.
Yeah, it's usually like you go to Nexus, you click install with Vortex, then you go to Vortex. When it'll download it, and you just tell it to install and enable, and in most cases, that's it. Mods that are patches or things like that, it'll come up with a prompt saying, do you want to install the patch for X mod? And if you have that mod installed, it's already got that box ticked in a lot of cases. So you just say yes, and away it goes. There are a
few rule setting things where you can use to override, like in my case, I override textures with other textures, like particular, like if I overhaul a whole bunch of stuff and I want particular characters to be enhanced or whatever, like I've got some mods installed that just make a lot of the women prettier, to be quite honest, because the women in Skyrim by default are hideous.
Yeah, so, I just put one of the universal, let's make everyone not look like potatoes mod in. And that does well enough. I think I might actually have to get a mod that's let's give Lydia a personality, though.
There are quite a few of those. I think that people have a great deal of affection for Lydia since you spend the most time with her out of all of the housecarls.
Yeah, she's the first companion character you get, but she has absolutely no personality. She's just kind of there, and whenever you talk to her, she's begrudging at best. And she doesn't really do much. Although I did download one companion who is a Khajiit rogue, and he never shuts up. But he has some of the absolute best and most ridiculous lines, so I can't fault him too much.
It's racist of me, but I only ever see Khajiit as like a comic relief race.
Yeah, it's because in the mainline Elder Scrolls games, they've never really been fleshed out too much. Like, you need to go to Elsewhere to get all that. And same with
sequestered on some
Argonians.
continent. Yeah, they're like sequestered on some continent in the middle of nowhere for their homeland, aren't they?
I believe it's a landlocked desert / jungle.
Yeah, something like
is
that.
What Elsewhere is. So yeah, because we haven't gone there in the mainline games, then there's a whole lot of their lore and personality as a species that you just don't get. And yeah, the same goes for the Argonians, because we haven't been to Black March either, because they've got some really screwed up history. Which basically involves worshipping gigantic, evil, man-eating trees.
That's not your usual history.
No, they're actually called the Hist, so there you go. But, yeah, Elder Scrolls, I love how it's just, like, on the surface, it is generic Fantasy 101, but once you start digging, you realize, hang on a moment, the interior of their planet is a gigantic clockwork nightmare.
Like, there was a whole lot of cool shit built up in the lore by the early writers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure any of those writers still exist at Bethesda, or anywhere even in proximity to Bethesda.
Almost certainly
Yeah,
not.
I have a sort of a sinking feeling that the next Elder Scrolls game is basically going to be the next Cyberpunk game. By which I mean something that's hyped to the rafters and just is universally disappointing to a vast majority of the people who, you know, the only crime was that they listened to what they were told.
Yeah.
There's always a terrible idea when Todd is the one telling you, but not everybody knows that.
Yeah. Like, all we've seen over the new Elder Scrolls game so far is a logo and a mountain. And that's it.
Like, I am having trouble conveying to a lot of people that Todd Howard is literally this generation's Peter Molyneux.
He really is.
He's just going to lie to you.
He's not as prolific as Molyneux was, but he's still a liar.
I wonder if there's a mod to change Mike the Liar's name to Todd.
Maik.
Yeah.
I like Maik, though. Maik is one of the cool characters you just find ran around.
Yeah, I ran into him in the middle of an empty field the other day. I was like, what?
And did he do his usual thing where he's just standing around spouting complete nonsense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
After spending some time commenting on what a tragedy it was that I just murdered the guys that I just murdered, whoever they were. Bandits, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, it says a lot about Skyrim that 10 years later and we're still all drawing enjoyment out of it.
Well,
I feel that for me it's a very well balanced game, and like in terms of mechanics, it is unbelievably shoddy. Like everything about it is designed like there was no proofreading was done on this design document. For instance, like when I was commenting to Ari at the start, like I always play a stealth character because I feel like stealth is the closest thing to a functional mechanism that's actually in this game. And the problem with stealth is that because of the way the leveling system is designed, stealth means that your sneak is just going to gradually creep ever upward.
Yes.
And because you do more damage while in stealth against a foe that's not paying attention, you don't really level very quickly because you just don't hit things very often. So your level keeps climbing because you're sneaking everywhere. Every time you don't see something, your sneak will go up. So what ends up happening is that your ability to do damage just doesn't climb at all, but your level does, and so does everything around you. But you don't have any perks in your weapons compared to your sneaking because you aren't gaining enough ranks.
Yeah. The best you can do is maybe level up either your bow or your one-handeds to go with it.
Heaven forbid you should accidentally level up your speech or something.
Yeah.
Like one time I did that. I went to Riften and I leveled my speech to 100, and everything else is like 30. Oh no! And that was the worst decision I ever made because it took me forever to kill anything. I think in the end I actually cheated to increase one of my weapon skills enough that I could actually continue playing the game.
Oh no!
But yeah, there's a lot of things that just not really thought out.
Yeah, like as far as mechanics go, like your combat is very basic. It's swing, block, and power attack. That's all you got. Magic, just don't.
Just don't. It's so badly designed. There are quite a number of very in-depth mods that have sought to improve on the magic system, but I haven't actually tried breaking any of them down and using them at length because they're so complicated that I can't tell whether it's a good or a bad idea at a glance.
The Apocalypse mod, I recommend, is a good one. It just adds a whole bunch of spells.
Yeah, the thing is, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
I don't actually want a whole bunch of spells. I just want spells to actually scale and
Yeah.
actually function in combat.
The other mod to go with that, I think, is Ordinator, which basically overhauls the skill trees, and then your spells start to scale properly with that one.
Right.
So
Because that was always the biggest problem with because ultimately, if you're playing a spellcaster, your bread and butter is going to be destruction because you have to kill things eventually.
Yeah.
Except that there's no way to ever improve the damage that your spells do.
Yeah.
It's just really bad. Because my first character that I made was a spellcaster, and I think I basically hit the wall at 29, level 29 or so, and because it was just taking so long to kill anything, that it would be just like, oh, okay, so I guess I'm just going to kite him around a tree and then wait for my magicka to recharge again and again and again.
If with the base game, the skill trees are very linear. Really, you don't have a whole lot of options. You might be able to specialize one way or the other. Like for your one-hander, you can pick sword, axe, club, kind of specialize that way a bit. But they're all ultimately really the same. So you don't get a whole lot of variety, and the spellcasting ones are all just dreadful. But between Apocalypse and Ordinator, you can pick up all these restoration skills and actually specialize in a restoration mage, for example. And you can either become, your undead smiting badass, or a Lord of Plague and Death. Both are the restoration tree.
That doesn't sound very restorative to me.
It's kind of the opposite of restorative, really. For conjuration, you can specialize and go down the tree for bound weapons and armor, which basically you turn on your giant magical girl transformation and equip Daedra armor out of nowhere.
The first time that I saw the bound weapons, on my first character, which is Skyrim was my first Elder Scrolls game because I played very little of Morrowind.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I saw the bound weapons, I thought that was an unbelievably cool idea, and then I realized that in context it just doesn't function.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
You can't do anything with it. If you have the wherewithal to summon a bound weapon and use a bound weapon, you can't do any damage with the bound weapon.
Yes.
Because if you have that much skill in that weapon, sufficient to do damage, because it's the skill, the damage is derived from your weapon skill. It's not derived from your skill with magic. Then you're already using a better weapon.
Yep.
The entire concept was made redundant. And this is what I mean about Bethesda just not thinking things through, because it's such a cool concept that they just wasted.
Yeah. More the point, if you want to go down that route and specialize in bound weapons, when you get into combat or encounter an enemy, you need to summon your weapon, then summon the armor, and summon anything else you need. And by the time you've done that, if you're in combat, the enemy would have caved your head in. So, thankfully, there's another ability that you pick up in that skill tree in Ordinator, which basically is an all-in-one summon.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, you press the don my suit of spells button.
Yes. It doesn't add, secondary buffs like armor, bark skin, or whatever you happen to be using, but yeah, it gets all your bound items on. So, yeah. That's basically been my week there, is playing around with Skyrim mods. It says a lot.
Is there a mod that I can play a magical girl? I might restart.
You can. Yeah, so that's Ordinator. Ordinator and Apocalypse, between those two. Be warned, though, that enemies also get the new spells, which is both amusing in some cases. Like there's one where it's a ping-pong fireball, which can bounce back on the caster. And the initial cast doesn't do a whole lot. So I've had it where an enemy's popped up with that, hit me with the initial cast, and then it's decided it was just going to rebound back on them and kill them. So that's much fun. Yeah. So beyond that, haven't done a whole lot of anime. Mostly it's just been rewatching the first season of Log Horizon so I can actually watch the second one. And I'm nearly at the end of it, I believe. I'm well past where I actually stopped the first time, which is good. And yeah, it's still holding up. And unlike Sword Art Online, it actually keeps my attention. Ugh. So anyway, I'm going to leave my week at that. So, because, yeah, Vol's probably going to overlap a lot with it. So, go for it, sir.
Right. So I've spent a great deal of pretty much this week has been kind of rough for me, and last week was pretty rough for me as well at work. But this week is sort of like it wasn't busy all week. It oscillated between very quiet and extremely busy repeatedly. And if anything, that's worse than being busy all week because I couldn't set a pace. And so I was often very tired, but that meant that Skyrim was actually quite a good game to play because you can still have fun doing very little. But so I basically have been playing it not in such a mode where I'm trying to extract a great deal of additional value from it, so much as I'm more intent on, oh no, I'm being attacked by a dragon. This is not what I bargained for. I'm not prepared for this. I'm doing like 1 point of damage. But yeah, I don't have any health potions either. How can I fight this thing? I'm basically playing it in nostalgia mode. So I'm giving it sort of the brush up on things like textures and so forth to make it look nicer, but largely trying to keep the base game and mechanics intact, although the idea of playing a magical girl is quite appealing to me, so I might look into that. But yeah, so I'm pretty much playing it the normie way, except that I've got so much sort of prior knowledge that it's hard to play it in a very normie way, I suppose, in a sense. How the heck I'm going to pause while I talk because this dragon is kicking my butt.
Have you actually bothered to touch the main story? As I haven't.
I haven't been to High Hrothgar yet.
Yeah, that's about as far as I got. You get your first shout, and that's all you need.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Once you get that, you can get the rest.
But yeah, so I'm more or less just playing it the normal way. And I haven't engaged with any of the major stories yet because I've basically been, poking around in caves and murdering bandits for no reason.
Also, the main
pretty
stories
much
are by and large awful.
Yeah, but they give you a lot of momentum, I feel.
They do.
Like if you want to go and do, say, the Thieves Guild, you can go do the Thieves Guild, and while they've given you that direction, I find over the course of that completing that you accumulate the power that sort of gives you more freedom. But like for instance, at the moment, I haven't done much of anything story wise, and I'm basically getting teabagged by everything bigger than a bandit. So
yeah, like a lot of the main story quests will give you, if not loot, then maybe a mechanic or a skill or something that you need to, not suck.
Well, it's not even just that. It's that they will ask you to do a lot of things, a lot of concerted activity in sequence. Like if, let's say that take the Thieves Guild. If you do the Thieves Guild, you're going to massively rack up your sneaking and your lockpicking and your pickpocketing and your killing things from stealth over the course of that because they're focusing on you on particular behaviors, and therefore you're in sort of a mode where you're able to build up skill quite quickly.
Yep.
So they give you momentum, and at this point I'm having a great deal of difficulty just proceeding. Like this dragon is teabagging me. As I remember, I used to be able to one-shot these things on my other character, but no, now I'm getting incinerated. But I'm having fun playing it, despite the fact that I can see all its flaws, and I think that that's the great strength of Skyrim as a game.
Yeah.
That no matter how atrocious it is, it's still entertaining to play. There's lots of things that are very, very poorly thought out, but you can still have fun in that world. And if you don't like something, you can simply mod it away most of the time.
Yeah, it's kind of compared to Fallout 4. Like Fallout 4, it's still fun modded, but I think Skyrim just gets so much more out of it. Like Fallout 4, even with a lot of mods, it is still very rigidly Fallout 4.
Yeah, when I tried playing Fallout 3 with mods, I couldn't get into it even then. Like not in the way that I can with Skyrim. It was just it still feels like Fallout. You can't make it feel like something different to Fallout. Like if you can make Skyrim into a very different game if you download a lot of very role-playing intensive mods or a lot of very combat overhaul and refinement mods. You can make the game feel very different if you want.
I think
you can
a
make
lot
it
of
into
that,
the type of game you want to play.
I think a lot of that also ties into just the flexibility of the world. Like there's very few things you can do you know, as long as they're kind of vaguely fantasy themed in Elder Scrolls, and they still fit in the lore in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it's not a post-apocalyptic dystopia.
Yeah, where
there's
everything
a lot
just
more
sucks.
creative freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not worrying about where you're getting your water from. But
Yes.
yeah. So I've
from a pointless sacrifice and a very disappointing game end is where you're getting your water from. Thank you for that.
So I've mainly installed like texture packs, lighting overhauls, more hair, different models for characters, that type of thing.
Turned off the nakedness.
I did turn off the nakedness. Ability to turn my helmet on and off, which I could not believe wasn't in there to begin with.
That should totally have been in there.
Feminine animation, so that the women don't walk and run and act like men, which I've always found very uncanny.
Yeah.
I think the mod that I find the most indispensable out of all of them is Sky UI.
Oh yeah, Sky UI is essential.
I think I would die if I didn't have it. And the main reason that I find it useful, I think the ultimate reason that it is useful, is that it permits you to use one chest as your bank for everything. Because the original UI has no sorting capability whatsoever. So you've got to maintain like 15 different chests for different categories of item. But since you can sort with Sky UI, you just dump all that trash in one chest.
Yep.
It's great.
Unless you want to RP it out, you don't have to use more than one box.
Yep. Also, mods to do things like turn up the number of special kill moves.
Oh yeah,
which
I saw that.
I always thought were really, really cool, but you hardly ever see them by default.
Mm.
But you can just, install Violins, which is the successor to the kill move mod that I used to use. The guy apparently has decided that he's not interested in updating anymore and endorsed this one. Gives you, full control to adjust all of the different kill moves you use for different weapons and so on. Chances, camera position, set certain things to be immunity, set the number of things that will be decapitated, that sort of thing. All that stuff. But the thing is, while I am interested in trying out other mods, I sort of don't want to go overboard, and every time I go to the Nexus site to look for something interesting, I just get lost in there. It's almost as bad as TV tropes.
Yeah.
But I'm having good fun with it. I hate thinking about how old this game is now because it makes me feel old. But it's held up really well, and mostly thanks to the efforts of the players. But you can't dismiss the fact that Bethesda, despite their flaws, did manage to make the platform that turned into this.
Yes.
Somehow. I don't know whether it was by accident or on purpose, but
probably a bit of both.
Yeah, because I'm more or less unwilling to credit Todd the Liar with very much, but it just works, I guess.
It does. Well, no, it really doesn't.
Well, it works for a meta sense of the term works.
Yes,
it works with some help.
Yeah, it works, but it may have some special needs to be attended to. But yeah, so. Having a good time with that, and I suppose in a sense it also is almost it's almost a critique of the other games that are out.
Yep.
I mean, why is it that Cyberpunk is not this?
Now,
why not?
Like, even though Skyrim came out as a horrible buggy mess.
Well, so did Cyberpunk. They're equal in that sense.
Although there are bugs in Skyrim which have been left in just for the lulz, like the giant SWAT, or the bucket trick is still in the game, as far as I'm aware.
I thought they took the bucket trick out. There's like a particular version in which it doesn't work.
I'll have to check.
But I think they might have taken it out and then put it back in due to player outrage or something like that.
Because it is such a creative and silly way of getting away with literal crimes.
Yeah, I might also look for an overhaul for blacksmithing and enchanting, because I have leveled them the hard way in the past. and I'm just not interested in doing the same thing over again. And more to the point, since I was last playing, Bethesda have patched the game, and you can't level blacksmithing by making 5 billion iron daggers anymore.
Nope.
The amount of EXP you get is proportional to the value of the item that you make. So at some point, leveling is just going to become a nightmare because you've got to find expensive materials in order to do any kind of leveling up at all. So I think I'll probably look for a mod to overhaul the blacksmithing system.
Yeah, you can get a little bit of mileage out of building houses and things, but I've just got a couple of other mods which just add a whole bunch of extra stuff you can make.
Yeah, I do. The thing that I do like about how fundamentally rudimentary the blacksmithing system was, that while that made it very breakable, like it is effortless to completely shatter the gear curve and the cap very early on if you want to, for gear stacks in Skyrim. What I like about that is it means that I can wear any armor I want just because I think I like the look of it. There are some armors that are not improvable, but most of those you can just get a modded version that is improvable. So yeah, like I mean, for instance, the only bow, the Nightingale bow is a really cool model, but it's the only one of its kind in the game, and it's the only one that uses that model in the game. It's not improvable, so you can just download one that is improvable if you want. But yeah, so yeah, none of this is news because everybody knows it already. But yeah, it still holds up. It's still real. Having a good time with it. Which I didn't really think I was going to be going back to Skyrim anytime soon, but I just basically got worn down by PSO2. It's not that I dislike playing it, it's just that I have a sense of hopelessness whenever I do. It's like, I'm never going to catch up. I don't have the sort of time to dump into this. I don't even have the Ari amount of time to dump into this, let alone the sort of no-lifing that's required to really be an in-game player. So I always feel like I'm just half-assing everything that I do.
Yep. Also, the moving goalposts really don't help.
Yeah, it's not so much that the goalposts are moving. I expect the goalposts to move. It's the fact that it's the speed at which the goalposts move that is the problem for me. I mean, Luster is coming out in a couple days.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got A12 to 95, and I don't think we're ready for them to add another new class.
We only just got A12 and Edgelord.
I mean, they're trying to pump people up through the levels on everything as fast as they can. They're dumping out a free Tokyo Gold ticket every single day and a 150% try boost.
Yeah, the thing is that doing Tokyo Gold over and over, I mean, do you not find that dull?
Yeah,
I've done Tokyo Gold. I haven't played even a fraction of the amount of time you have. Your clocked hours are like over 1,000 at this point. Mine are like 200 or 300, and I've already done Tokyo Gold like 80 times.
It's quick, but it's still dull.
I don't think I can hack it any longer. And the thing is that I feel like that behavior was never supposed to happen. It's degenerate. That behavior is a degeneration of the way the game was supposed to be played.
I think they're going to run into a problem where things are going to come back to bite them in the butt pretty hard when PSO2 comes out and
they're going to launch it. And everybody is going to be maximally burnt out. And they're going to come in and there's not going to be enough content for them to do at the pace they're accustomed to.
Even if they're not burnt out and they really want to play, they got a problem where they've been giving content updates so fast, so frequently, and giving people so many progression tier goodies all the time for every little event they have. They'll dump bonus keys and try boosts on you. That when PSO2 comes out and none of that's happening anymore, everybody's going to be like, well, what the FAQ?
Yeah, this has been a deeply ill-advised strategy. I mean, aside from my numerous complaints over previous months about how I feel like it could have been done better, it's not going to work out for them either, because I think that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be maximally burnt out on the game by the time the PSO2 comes out. And that's part of the reason why I don't want to play. Like, I know that there are things that I'm missing out on. I know that I'm not going to be able to take a menagerie of 15-star weapons over to the new one, but ultimately that stuff usually doesn't matter that much anyway. And I would like to tool around with the PSO2, and I don't want to be in a posture where I'm so sick of the game that I don't want to.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll talk more about PSO2 when we get to my week. But as much as the hours I've logged on it, you don't play PSO2 to play PSO2. You
No.
play PSO2 to do while you're doing something else because your hands and eyes are not occupied.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just don't have the energy or patience to do that type of thing at the moment. My work day is full of exhaustion and difficulty and chaos, so I don't even get the pleasure of sitting down. So, yeah, FGO is continuing the Prisma Codes event, which will be coming to an end in a couple of days. Which is just as silly the second time round as it is the first time round, although the second time round it's sort of a little bit bittersweet because if I recall correctly, this is the last time that we will ever see Dr. Roman
Aw,
in game.
he's a giant dork, and everyone likes him.
Yeah, but this is at this point he's departed from the story, and this is the last event that gets rerun while he's still present. So, yeah. It's sort of a bit bittersweet in that sense. I haven't been playing it very dedicatedly, but that's fine for Prisma Codes because Prisma Codes, I feel, is the most evenly paced event. They don't dump a whole pile of grinding on you to do. It's something that you can just proceed through at a stately pace. There are no time locks. There is no huge grind to do. It does have a mission system, but the missions tend to be completed naturally as you proceed through the story. The story is modestly long, and if you play it at a casual pace, it will last for the entire 2 weeks and will provide you with enough material to buy out maybe a third to a half of the shop without even trying. So, yeah, it's I think one of the better paced events in FGO's history, which means that the hardcore FGO players hate it because there's nothing to do. It's so easy it's so easy to just grind all the way to the end if you're just going to blitz it. But I don't have the energy for that, like I said. So it's actually been quite comfortable to play. I've got plenty of time to do other things. I haven't finished the event yet. I've got like a couple more quests to do and the challenge quest, and then it'll be done and it'll just be grinding. So I'll finish that probably this evening or tomorrow sort of thing. And then the event will be over. And I wish more events were paced like that, but there's a lot of people who are terrified of upcoming dead periods that are expected this coming year, but I'm not terrified because I have a job to do. I don't understand how these people play as much as they do. Like, as much as I don't understand how Ari has so much time to play, I also know that he works a desk job and has basically zero commute. So he's got more free time. But some of these people, they play a pretty insane amount. And I'm not sure how there are enough hours in the day.
There are literal no-lifers in games like FGO that will get so addicted to the game that they just play it literally everywhere. And it's worse because it's a mobile game.
Yeah, so you don't even have to get out of bed.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people playing phone games on job sites at work. You know, areas with heavy construction. I just see people playing phone games, sitting there, or standing against the wall playing it. So if FGO is your phone game,
don't you have like health and safety on the worksite codes or something?
Yeah.
Oh, in the city of Atlanta, I'm pretty sure it's on the books. You can't be on your phone if you're in any area that requires you to wear a hard hat, unless you're calling somebody else also in the area.
Yeah, a lot of places have codes like that. But come on,
what
remember when Pokemon Go was at its height? You'd had people walking into construction sites or military bases and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they thought that I think the worst thing about that is people had the impression that it was okay because of the memes. Like
it became that, yes.
It's not how the real world works, I'm sorry. There are people with jobs to do and they are not interested in you walking onto their military base.
Especially when you're not paying any attention.
Yeah, what I'm afraid of is people playing these things when they're driving.
Yeah. Pokemon Go yells at you for that, by the way.
That would require a very, very brave person, or a very reckless person, or a very skilled individual if they even think they can attempt to drive and play a mobile game at the same time. No,
you see people do it all the time.
Yeah.
You see people do things like that. They're always on their phone texting or whatever while they're driving along. And although you can be pulled over and fined for it, they don't seem to be that concerned.
I am terrified to look at my phone to back up a few seconds on an audiobook. Like, I don't want to look at that thing when I'm driving. I'm terrified I'm going to hit somebody.
That's the way a lot of people should be, admittedly, because people do really stupid things with their phone while driving.
Everybody thinks they're better than the average person. Like, the average person should be terrified to look at their phone while they're driving.
Yes, they should.
But these people just think they're better and invincible, I guess.
Uh.
I don't think they're really thinking about anything. I don't think that they're really paying any attention.
Well, yeah, they've
the risks don't enter their mind.
Yeah.
They don't live in a perpetual state of autistic paranoia like we do.
Let me just call that common sense in the real world.
Yeah, like if somebody rings my phone and I have to touch the button to answer and look down and see where the button is, I will weave into the other lane a little bit.
If somebody rings my phone, I ignore it. It doesn't matter what I'm doing.
I have to answer because I'm almost always on a hands-free. Yeah.
If somebody calls me and it's important, they'll call me back.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I will answer if I'm on a back road in the middle of nowhere and can see for 20 seconds ahead of me that nobody's coming. I'll reach down quickly and answer the phone. Otherwise, they're gonna have to wait till I'm somewhere clear.
Yup.
Anyway, what was I talking about? Okay, so there's FGO. I don't actually know what event is coming up next. Maybe I don't know. I can't think of what it must be. Anyway, like I said, I wish more events were structured like this, but yeah, so we'll be coming into February soon. So Valentine's Day, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
Will mean that the next writer servant, no pun intended, Murasaki Shikibu, will be coming out. So, I mean, that's a pun because she's an author. She wrote Tales of Genji, but
yes.
Also because the artist handle is writer. But unfortunately, he doesn't have a setting between Shuten and Raiko as far as body types are concerned.
Oh, that one. I couldn't bring to mind who you were talking about. It took me a second.
Yeah, he has two settings: Shuten and Raiko.
She's super Raiko.
All of his characters that he draws, they will fall into one of those two categories. But so yeah, terribly unnatural looking in a lot of ways. But I like Murasaki's third phase form, but I don't think that I'm going to roll on her. She's not good enough to justify it. I don't think. She's not a bad character, but I've got tons of things that function in the demonic niche at the moment. So giving another one's not really gonna help all that much. Although I do need an AoE caster, like a heavy hitting AoE caster, but I would rather get Anastasia, probably, because she's cuter and doesn't have weird boobs. Yeah. So in anime, the only new one that I had time to look at was Mushoku Tensei, and I'm going to call this one a no. I don't know if it's a no for everybody, since, well, basically, the story's like he's a 34-year-old loser guy, and he gets hit by a truck and isekai'd.
Because, of course he does. Yeah.
So, and then he reincarnates as a kid who's like a magic prodigy and stuff, and then goes through all the normal story beats. Now that's dull enough, and enough reason to not watch it by itself. The problem is that the guy, like the main character, is just skeevy and revolting. Well, I find him nauseating. Like, he's just grotesque, and it's just he is obsessed with sexuality, and therefore the show is. And like I'm perfectly willing to tolerate cheesecake, but incidental cheesecake, not this guy is going out of his way to leer at everything female. Yeah, and it's his behavior is just generally kind of repugnant, and the show reflects that as well. Like, the show has an obsession with sex. Like, just compulsively obsessed with it. It's hard to describe because it's not graphic in any way. Like there's no nudity or anything, but the show is obsessed with it, and so it's hard to describe. Like there's a constant recurring theme when he's growing up of him hearing his parents having sex in the bedroom, for instance.
Mm.
This is sounding
So-
really weird, dude.
Yeah, I know. The thing is that while he is their child, he is also this other person. So there's just weird dimensions to everything. Everything about it just makes my skin crawl. And none of it is necessary. It's not going to do any better, performance-wise as a story, for having this weird obsession with sex in it, than it would if it was just a standard isekai, because it is a standard isekai in every other respect, other than the fact that it leers at everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the target audience is or where it's going or anything like that. Like the normal process is to make the protagonist an everyman, not a completely revolting individual.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not like a villain protagonist story either. It's sort of implied that he is a normal everyman, except that he's also revolting. So yeah, I just don't like it at all. Like I'm normally happy to watch a completely by the numbers isekai, but this one made me feel queasy and I stopped watching.
Yeah, that's understandable.
It's emblematic of the current generation's unhealthy obsession with bedroom activities. Like they are critical to the continuation of the species and the unit of bonding in a couple. And they are not necessarily critical to the success of a story. So it should not. If it was even a plot point, that would be different. It's not.
It's not.
It's not a plot point. It's just everywhere, dripping out of every crack in the story.
That's a poor choice of words.
Yeah, it is. But it's like this is like, you know, it's the Game of Thrones of isekai, where they've just chucked sex position into everything, I guess. I don't know. It's just dumb and bad. Don't watch it. It doesn't have any redeeming qualities to offset the things that I find skeevy. And even if you don't find any of that skeevy, like I'm not under any impression that I'm not like a ridiculous prude compared to the average human being. But even if you factor all that out, there's still nothing of value here.
Mm-hmm.
So don't watch it. Just don't bother. Unless you're absolutely obsessed with watching isekais for whatever silly reason, there's no reason to watch it. I don't think I've looked at any others yet this season. I don't know what else is on the docket that I might. Mostly things have been... There's not really much to comment on as far as anime is going this season. It's been unremarkable so far. Nothing has knocked my socks off. The only notable news in anime is that apparently the production company that made the unbelievably disappointing Camelot adaptation from Fate Grand Order is refusing to pay its animators.
Oh, that's
They've
always a good business decision.
They're trying to pocket the takings and run, and it's creating all sorts of chaos in the Japanese industry. I haven't been following it particularly closely, but the fact that it's managed to escape that tight circle of news and make it over to my attention when I don't follow it shows that it's kind of a big deal. Like the animators are sort of like viewed as an abused underclass in production. But the thing is that they're also absolutely critical. So when they rebel en masse, it causes huge problems for the entire industry. And so people are very, while they're not fortunate enough to have any kind of union structure that makes their bosses afraid of actually treating them like slaves, because of the sort of natural social cohesion that they have in Japan, there's a tendency for you to be courting mass industrial action if this becomes a thing. And so I expect that probably the other animation studios will probably start stealing jobs off of this one, as a sort of, a natural
Will actually pay you money ploy.
It's not. I'm not saying that they'll necessarily steal animators, although they will. But like the industry as a whole tends to speak about these types of things, and not with words, but with action. So, because the other companies don't want it to be considered the norm that if you work in this industry, you're going to get abused, because then they will have to deal with unions starting to spring up, and no employer wants to deal with union reps under any circumstances, ever. It's always bad. If you're an employer, dealing with the unions is always bad for you.
I think the Japanese unions are even worse than the Western unions, from what I've heard. They got
the Japanese unions have the Yakuza. That's why they're bad. Like,
I didn't know that.
The thing is that the Yakuza are like how the Mafia used to be in the 20s. Like, they're an accepted part of society.
Yeah, the old early Italiano Mafia back
so any large scale public organization that is, it has a public face, but it's not a government one as such, there will be somewhere at the edges there will be blurry lines with the organized crime syndicates. It's like that for everything. It's just that, in the case of Japan, where the Yakuza are still part of normal society to a certain extent, sooner or later you're going to, because unions always have the crook element in them, and the crook element is usually connected to the underworld in some way, except in this case the underworld is still very organized. So if you actually just try and run over the unions, you're liable to attract the wrong sort of attention, because if you're the sort of boss that does that, you have dirty laundry, and the unions will be able to hire somebody who can shake down that information.
And have absolutely no compunctions about doing so.
It's like the biggest value in Japanese society is not rocking the boat. And when you rock the boat, heads roll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway,
probably not. Yeah.
I don't really have much else to talk about, I don't think.
All right.
I'm going to let you get killed by this dragon.
All righty. We're at about an hour, so we should probably go to a music break.
We should.
Get you prepared for what comes after my week.
But, let me find where I actually put it. Before we get carried away on that, word of warning about this music break. It's Mimi.
Mimi in the best way.
Alright. So then, for those who haven't heard it before, I present Tendy Man.
There once was a stock that put to sea. The name of the stock was GME. The price blew up and the shorts dipped down. Hold my bully boys, hold. Soon may the Tendy Man come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. She had not been 2 weeks from shore when Ryan Cohen joined the board. The captain called all hands and swore he'll take his shares and hold. Soon may the Tendy Man come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. Before the news had hit the market, Wall Street bets came up and bought it. With diamond hands, they knew they'd profit if they could only hold. Soon may the Tendy Man come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. No deals were cut, no shorts were squeezed. The captain's mind was not on greed, but he belonged to the artist's creed. He took the risk to hold. Soon may the Tendy Man come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. For 40 days or even more, the stock went up, then down once more. All gains were lost, it was looking poor, but still those traders did hold. Soon may the Tendy Man come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. As far as I've heard, the fight's still on. The short's not squeezed and the game's not won. The Tendy Man makes his regular call to encourage the captain, crew, and all. Soon may the Tendy Man come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. Soon may the Tendy Men come to send our rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. There once was a stock that put to sea. The name of the stock was GME. The price blew up and the shorts dipped down. Hold my bully boys, hold. Soon may the Tendy Men come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. She had not been 2 weeks from shore when Ryan Cohen joined the board. The captain called all hands and swore he'll take his shares and hold. Soon may the Tendy Men come to send our rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. Before the news had hit the market, Wall Street bets came up and bought it. With diamond hands, they knew they'd profit if they could only hold. Soon may the Tendy Men come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. No deals were cut, no shorts were squeezed. The captain's mind was not on greed, but he belonged to the artist's creed. He took the risk to hold. Soon may the Tendy Men come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. For 40 days or even more, the stock went up, then down once more. All gains were lost, it was looking poor, but still those traders did hold. Soon may the Tendy Men come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. As far as I've heard, the fight's still on. The short's not squeezed and the gain's not won. The Tendy Man makes his regular call to encourage the captain, crew, and all. Soon may the Tendy Men come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. Soon may the Tendy Men come to send a rocket into the sun. One day when the trading is done, we'll take our gains and go. There.
And we're back.
So what the hell was that?
We'll get to it fairly shortly. But
What, you don't like sea shanties? What's your problem?
Oh boy, yeah, I missed a lot of the shenanigans this week, and shenanigans is probably the best word for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
part of the reason why I didn't get much done this week is that most of my entertainment came from watching the behavior of the stock markets. Believe it or not.
But we'll get back to that in a
was-
moment.
Yeah, so we'll go through my week real quick here. So I beat PSO2.
Yay!
I have every class at 95, which did not take very much effort because they're literally showering us in bonus keys. as
You say it
mentioned
didn't take
before.
much effort, but it is incredibly boring and takes a lot of time.
It's very
Yeah,
tedious,
but-
yes.
But yeah, it's it's because I've just been getting home from work exhausted from what's been going on there. So we've been moving back towards a full and active work cycle again. It has not happened immediately and has been very gradual, but over the course of the month, stuff has started to ramp back up now that people have just stopped putting everything on hold. And while the mayors may be locking stuff down, now that everything except for the highest tier of federal government and local mayors are locking stuff down, we're finally getting places open back up that want to buy stuff again. And these places have been closed down for a while, so they all want their stuff all at once. So
Yeah.
It's,
Because that sort of stuff that happens by magic, nobody needs to actually organize it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know the full reasons why, but those are my best guesses. And yeah, I've just been dealing with the phones with a shorted staff because we cut everybody that wasn't me and the opossum and 2 contractors
So
because
how
we
much
just couldn't afford to pay them.
how much dead weight did that actually end up trimming?
You know, despite being absolutely swamped in people this week, I was still able to manage everything just fine and get home by 6 o'clock every day.
Yeah.
That everybody else that was on our payroll was doing literally nothing.
How nice of them.
Yeah. But still, that does mean there's a lot of people to keep up with and like 80 jobs. And it does not help that a lot of these jobs have the same name or come from the same company. So I've been getting home and just been tired. I'll get home after dealing with all that and going nonstop the whole time I'm there. I'm like, I just want to listen to an audiobook until I'm ready to go to bed, and I really don't want to mess with anybody else. So that trend has continued. I get home, sit down on my chair, I turn an audiobook, and I'm like, well, I'm not just going to listen to an audiobook, and so I'll play PSO2. And by play PSO2, I mean exist in PSO2 doing things that ostensibly are making progress towards something, but not actually accomplishing very much. Other than making my numbers go up. So that's why I've been playing so much PSO2, just to reiterate again. There's nothing engaging about playing PSO2. And that is specifically why I've been playing PSO2. You don't play PSO2 to play PSO2. You play PSO2 so you have a little bit more to do than just listen to an audiobook. But yeah, so I beat the game. Got every class to level 95, every single one, and I made a current tier. Well, before this latest patch, it was the best tier weapon. And actually, Augmenta fixed it, and that cost a lot of Class EX cubes. Which thankfully the mission passes have been handing out. So I spent like 45 million Meseta to make it with the current
That's a lot of
economy.
Meseta.
Yeah, so I made like 85 million, was over 100 million last week. I've or the week before, I can't remember. That has been whittled down. But a portion of it went into leveling up my crafting to a point where I can actually turn a huge profit on it. So if I ever do need Meseta, I have that. But yeah, I posted it in the video game channel if you want to see it. It's a wand for Etoile because the current in-game tier content in PSO2 has a death limit on it. And if you pass it, you're going to screw over the whole group.
Herp de derp.
Yeah.
So I've invested heavily in my Estelle class, and one specifically, because I'm paranoid of being that guy.
Well, nobody wants to be that guy.
Nobody likes that guy.
So until I feel comfortable enough in my unit affixes to not die instantly to a stray shot from something, I'm gonna be sticking with Wanda still because I actually like the class, and there is a fine line that you can cross between being a really good Wanda Stell and a really bumbling along Wanda Stell.
I only want to bumble along. It's too boring to me.
It is actually a very frantic class to play if you're playing it correctly to maximize your damage. You still don't do a ton of damage because your big
You're a
trade-off
support
is
class.
yeah. But you can really crank your damage up if you know how to alternate techniques correctly and make sure your orbs are doubled up in the right spot and keep your shotgun blast going without getting into repetitive use reductions on its damage.
I don't think any of that's true. I think that the real skill is to learn how to not let the auto-targeting betray you at a critical moment.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing about playing Wanda Stell really bad. You can tell
To me, that's 80% of the skill is knowing the auto-targeting inside out so it doesn't betray you.
So yeah, this just comes from a natural feel for every major mob type you're going to be fighting and whatever quest you're doing. You'll know approximately how much HP it has, or you can learn how to target very quickly and then immediately untarget. Now, the real double trick of that is everything in the current tier has a very explicit weak point that you have to hit. So you have to know how to angle your camera just right to nail the target first try.
The weak point's not always in the same place, though.
No.
Like, it moves around, even on the same mob.
Yeah, on the bigger mini-boss enemies, it moves around. It can be on any of the four corners of either of its shoulders or either of the back of its knees. That's the big one. And also, everybody at this current tier, you can tell who's paying attention to their gear if their weapon has been element changed to dark, because this is the only part of the PSO2 quest cycle where the main bosses and enemies are resistant to light and weak to dark.
Which is deeply frustrating.
Yes.
Considering virtually everything that you get is light later in the game.
Yeah, and everything else in the game has been weak to light and not something anybody with an actual normal weapon has ever had to think about.
How involved is element changing
it's
for a
easy.
regular weapon? Okay, good.
You go on the auction house, you pay 800,000 Meseta for the elements you want. Because they come out of AC scratch tickets, and then you just enhance that weapon with a throwaway Vita weapon and the element change.
Incidentally, just for summoners, it's slightly easier, but also slightly more annoying.
You have to find a pet of the correct element to change it, right?
Yeah, you can just buy the candy off the market to do that, off the vendor rather. But I think you need lambda grinders to buy it.
So lambda grinders aren't an issue anymore because they've added lambda grinders to the swap shop for 12-star items.
Oh, thank goodness.
So if you have 12-star weapons, somewhere near the bottom-ish of the swap shop, you can trade 3 12-star weapons for 1 lambda grinder. So lambda grinders have ceased being an issue.
Yeah, they were always the big bottleneck.
I bet they were hell once upon a time.
They were until they stuck them in the swap shop, and it was fairly recently they did that, like start of episode 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, even just leveling up rings was a problem because of random lambda grinders. So yeah, I managed to make a decent weapon and poke my head into what is the current in-tier content. Now I had to turn off the audiobook and actually pay attention when I did these. But the current in-tier content are called divide quests. And I am not successfully 100% S-ranked one yet. I've gotten a final grade S rank, but I haven't managed to complete every single stage completely. So the way divide quests work, you start off and once you clear the previous stages, you'll have the last one, step 26 through 30. And it's 5 stages back to back to back to back that you do with a party of 4. And you can pug them fairly easily by just sitting in there and waiting for people to come and join and use your party beacon or join and accept their party beacon.
Mm-hmm.
The party leader picks the path the party goes on, and they're offered 2 choices. One is the point route that gives you bonus divide points at the end of it, but it's usually a little bit harder, or the life route. Now, at the max difficulty of divide quests, the party starts with 1 life.
Oh no.
If anybody dies, the quest fails immediately.
Oh no.
But if you go the life route, it's a little bit easier. You get less divide points at the end, but you also increase the number of lives you have by 2 if you S rank it.
You might actually finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because the final boss is both the story mode version of Varuna and Shiva together at the same time.
No. Like Varuna was bad enough. I haven't gone far enough through the story to even face Shiva, and frankly, I'm not really keen to do so. Because Varuna was awful, and I don't really want to see what tops it.
So Shiva's not actually that dangerous. Dodging Varuna's attacks will naturally put you out of the way of Shiva's. The problem with Shiva is her stupid shield. When the group finally kills Varuna, I have not had a group with enough DPS to go and kill Shiva afterwards. We've gotten really close a few times, but I've never had a group that's been able to quite do it. I've also discovered at in-game content in PSO2, it is split into two groups of people that are about even in population. And one of them is much better than the other ones, but are also all assholes.
Isn't that always the way?
So it's so bad that if people join a divide quest and you've been in there with another singular person that you found, if a group of 2 joins, the other person will just say, we need to bail. It doesn't matter who that is. Any pre-made groups are usually from a guild, and they are always jerkwads that are tryharding way too hard. And are often not as good as they think they are. And they will be jerks to you the whole time for not playing the exact way they want you to play. So
yeah, well, I mean, from what I've seen, they're just the same elitists that you find in every MMO. The problem is that in PSO2, the circumstances which bring the elite cast into contact with the casual players is much more frequent.
Yeah,
like,
and
in WoW, a guild doesn't bring in anybody to their guild runs except for the people which, you know, can sell themselves to be able to fill those positions. In the case of PSO2, you're just going to get jammed in a group with these idiots, and there's not anything that you or them can do about it. It just happens.
Yeah, it's going to happen. And I've actually bumped into quite a few decent people that just don't have a guild and just hang out on their floor, whatever their chosen lobby is. And they'll talk to you and are generally nice people. I've had good civil conversations with most people, and we had a good time. And everybody said good job at the end, and at least we gave it a good try. We got real close on that floor, guys. We almost completely cleared it. A little bit more DPS, and we can probably do it next time. Like, genuinely nice people, as long as that person came into the quest alone. That's the cutoff line. As long as people join one at a time, they're probably going to be nice people. If they join as a group with 2 or more people, leave the group immediately. Because it doesn't matter how good they do, they're going to be jerks about it the whole time. And actually, now that I think about it, they're not any better than the solo players. I had one group that 3 joined me alone from a guild, and they were flipping out about what I was doing, but they were the ones that couldn't kill their mobs in these quests. Because in these divide quests, it's got different types of quests you can get. You can get Annihilation, which is to kill 100 enemies on a floor that spawn as you kill the ones before it, and it'll give you a smallish battle arena. And there are very specific ways you have to kill them, because some will have those things those bombs from the Tokyo Rainbow Quest around them, and you have to pull these mobs over to the big boss monsters that will spawn to one-shot the big boss monsters, so you don't have to waste 20 seconds killing it, because you only got 3.5 minutes to do it. And I've seen people in guilds kill these things as soon as they spawn and not drag them over to the boss monster.
Ugh.
And so we have to waste 20 to 30 seconds DPSing the boss monster down.
I think a lot of this is actually, again, I'm gonna beat this drum. I think a lot of this behavior, while there is a certain amount of it which is just the internet's full of idiots, I think it's also part of the syndrome of having deployed the game so quickly, because I found this every patch, in truth. Like, I don't know what your experience, Ari, has been like, but Crimson Fellworm is hell on earth. Because everybody who picks up the sword does not know how to open the wounds on the dragon.
Yeah, you hope you get the one guy that knows how to do it.
And it's trivial to do so.
Yeah.
Except that they don't do so.
And
I thought that I was being trolled at first, but there's no way that every group could have trolls in it, right?
Yeah, I eventually had to learn how to do it because I was getting tired of it.
I learned how to do it before going in because I thought that was good manners.
Yeah,
well, it is, yeah.
It was one of the spurts where I wasn't playing basically at all and would just log on occasionally when it would come
Well,
up. And
I went and
but,
looked it up because I was away for the whole of chapter 5, and I was like, I don't want to pull this quest and then be the one douche who wasn't playing and doesn't know how to do it. So I looked up how to kill the dragon. It turned out that none of the people who were there during episode 5 had learned over the course of the entirety of episode 5.
yeah. But yeah. The urgent quests right now are really boring and nobody likes to do them. And these are the current urgent quest right now is particularly cancerous. The Armada Assault one for the story, and the Valentine's Day one is not very interesting. Either it's the Valentine's Day one, you split up into, you have to divide the group into 2 groups after you kill the first mini boss, the Griffin. And the faster you clear from that point onwards, the better. So you want to evenly balance your DPS across the 2 groups to reach the end at the same time, as close as you can. And because one group will not be able to move forward to the next section of its side until the other group has killed it. And the group balancing is so bad sometimes that one group will be like a whole minute ahead of the other side. And nobody ever wants to double back and just go leave their side and join the other group.
Oh no.
That was never a problem before in other similar things. Like that sort of scenario played out in an informal way in various quests that have been around, and things like the urgent quest where you've got the 2 groups will be dropped on either side of the ship and both have to work their way up the side. Normally people are okay with helping.
Yeah, but that one loops naturally back around. You have to finish your side and then you get to the top of the ship and can go immediately and help the other side if they're not quite there yet. In this one, you have to stop, turn around, run all the way back to where the mini boss was before you split, and then go up their side to wherever they're at to help them.
But what else are you going to do? You're just going to sit there and whinge? Like,
they're gonna sit there and do bored emotes.
Those aren't really bored emotes, though, are they? Those are look at how good I am emotes.
Yeah, so it's that has been very frustrating with that current urgent quest. And the Armada Assault is just everybody is just trying to do it as fast as they can, and it requires constant play where you can't just put down the controller whenever you want. There are no breaks because you need to do as many runs as you can.
I don't like Armada Assault.
I don't
even if you aren't trying to be too hardcores at it, and do it super quickly and get tons of medals and stuff, it's still boring. It's just dumb.
I got one god tier pug one time that got the points Chivo for needing like 430,000 invasion points. We did the first sector like 3 or 4 times before the second sector even popped. And then that got me all the titles. I'm like, okay, that's it. Whenever it comes up, I'm just like, nah, not going to do that one. And the loot isn't even that good from it, but the
point is to get 15 stars to grind up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a quick way to get the collection folders finished. If you really want to get your CFs going. So you can do that, but you'll get it just from doing Divide Quest. Will give you more than give you your Lumen Mechs. One full run through the highest difficulty of a Divide Quest will give you enough Lumen Mechs to finish the Lumen Mech section, and you can just get the urgent quest from anything else. It's too stressful to even treat it as something that's available on the rotation because it's just not fun and it's really boring. So I generally ignore it. Especially since I got all the titles from that one pug that did super duper amazing. So I don't have to think about it anymore. And nobody likes it. You sit in B42 and the second it's Armada Assault, you hear in area chat everybody groaning. But it's going to be in rotation for a little bit longer, I think, before they finally change that one out. And the Divide quests are more fun anyway. So you'll find people just skimping on Armada Assault to go do Divide quests.
Ultimately, though,
I think you're muted, Fern.
Yes, I am.
Even in light of it being that the quest itself is boring, I also just find Lumen Mechs kind of boring as enemies. Like that, the fighting them is not. It's not engaging. It's just annoying. Like their weak points being in stupid areas, like that doesn't make them fun. It just makes them irritating to me.
Yeah, I genuinely like the way they're going with divide quests as the end game, rather than needing to just farm urgent quests. You still need to for the crafting materials to give to Zed for your weapons, but you don't need to. You don't need to get your drops from urgent quests unless you really want to get the drop of the S augment that you want, which I sold for 1,000,000 Meseta or 100,000,000 Meseta instead of using, because that's way too much money not to sell that stuff. But yeah, the divide quests are just better in general because there's more than just the previously mentioned assault. There's kill the boss ones, where your damage will ramp throughout the course of the boss encounter, and it will just be a boss with occasional 1 or 2 lumen mechs that show up to be annoying and give people that need alternate targets for their class something to hit on. And it shows you the progress bar of how much HP the boss has left. And if you get just below killing it, you get an S rank. That's real interesting because of the way the damage ramp works. It changes how you have to go after the bosses normally, and they all have a unique effect they don't normally have. So, like the big guy at the end of Daybreak Province, if he spawns, he can do his attacks without putting ice everywhere. So you actually have to break his feet. And then
I usually try and break this feat anyway because I have difficulty with that guy.
Yeah, so you actually have to break his feet because he only rarely puts the ice down. And then and stuff like that'll happen for those. And then there's covert ops. You run around a exploration stage, and you have to find devices laying around. And the more devices you find, the bigger the payout at the end is for rewards.
You call them covert ops, but all I can think of is Weed Peacock trying to be covert.
Yeah, nobody that goes into them is very covert, and there's no stealth element to it. It's just an exploration quest with less enemy spawns, and your job is to run around the map and find the devices to activate to give yourself a bigger reward at the end while killing the 3 targets it'll specify at the start of the quest as your bonus point targets and kill enough of the bonus targets and collect enough of the gemstones laying around the level while deactivating the devices will make your score go up. And that one's really fun. And after 3 minutes, acid rain starts falling that reduces your max HP the longer it goes.
Oh no!
So you got a hardened rage timer there on the level, and it takes 10 seconds for everybody to be zoned out of the level. So you need to be back at the leave point by 10 seconds before you're gonna die. And the rain ramps up, so it catches a lot of people by surprise at first. There's resupply where you have 4 mining base killer thingies, but they don't have health. Instead, you run around the level collecting crystals in like Nightfall Prophets or something. They're usually set up like that with corridors you can run down between, and the things are scattered at different points throughout the map. And some of them, they'll start flashing and enemies will spawn near them. So you have to divide your team by people that can defend, because not every class can defend well, and not every class can get around the level really fast to collect crystals. So you have to talk with your team before you're going in to make sure you assign the right people to the right job to get an S rank there. In general, it's just way better with these type of quests. And the fact that you can pick what you want to do, and they also have random affixes on it, on each quest. And both the health one and the point one will have different permanent effects that affect the party. And they're totally randomized, so you can talk with your group leader and be like, I don't think we want to fight the boss with plus 10% HP, actually. We're barely cutting it with DPS. Maybe we should go with the other quest, whatever that is. It's just it encourages minor interaction with your party that, while not very substantive, can turn into a legitimate conversation and feels like an actual MMO group. Instead of just show up to the urgent quest to kill the boss and leave.
I'm starting to see why it seems to attract douchebags though, like because the people are going to be thinking about the minutia of what should be done in quotes, and therefore anything that diverges from their personal view of what should be done is going to provoke them having a spurge out.
Yeah, and but when you get people that are chill with it, it provides just enough of an environment where communication is minimally necessary to start talking to people, and you'll find people that are just cool and fun to talk to, like old MMO groups. Just the kind of conversation you would find when you're going into a particularly difficult dungeon back in Old World Warcraft, or when you're just waiting for your slow mage to finally make their way to the dungeon portal or something. So it's much better, I think, than most of the other in-game stuff they've tried, just because of that. But you do get the douchebags.
Yeah.
So you run a risk of that. So either run it with your friends or run away if you see somebody that looks try hard into the group, or somebody that and you can tell they usually have some kind of edgy outfit they got going on. It's usually always some edge lord.
Phantom.
Yeah, a good chunk of them are phantoms. So none of them play Etoile at all because it's not optimized for damage. So if you see an Etoile, they're usually pretty chill. Usually Tectors can go either way. Forces are usually pretty try hard. Not anymore. Forces are usually pretty chill.
I think
Summoner-
that's because Force is such a. If everything about playing a Force, I haven't spent much time playing a Force, but every part of it screams this was definitely a launch class.
Yeah, it's really clunky. It was not a fun. It was my least favorite class to level up. I like leveling up Tector more because at least I could find other things to do with Tector, and I could do a sidestep dodge instead of that stupid floaty dodge. Even with quick dodge, that thing just doesn't feel natural to use. But yeah, it's been interesting doing the in-game stuff, but it's not substantive enough to keep my attention for serious. If I didn't have 100 million Meseta laying around, I wouldn't have been able to get an in-game tier to begin with, because I was not going to grind out everything I needed to make that stupid Rivalate weapon. Like,
Yeah.
that just ain't gonna happen. I just happen to have enough unique weapon badges and a ton of money laying around. So yeah, that's PSO2, and I'm just waiting for stuff to come out for it. I don't imagine I'll be sticking with it too much longer now that I've bumped into the wall of there are no more classes to level up, and I have decent units and the best weapon out here. I mean, I
Yeah.
could grind up the current tier weapon if I really wanted. I'm almost there, in fact. I just need more pure photons.
Yeah. Besides, now that
but there's no point.
Yeah, now that the sequel, whatever, is on the closed beta, we're starting to see a lot more information about that.
Yeah. And we did get a release of information about it, but we can get into that maybe later, but probably
Maybe.
not.
Not this
'Cause
week.
the-
I think there's so
I
much
watched
happening.
some. I watched some information about it, but most of it was not terribly interesting.
Yeah.
I did
And a lot of
see-
it's not going to last anyway. It'll change before launch.
Yes.
I did see that you pegged onto the press release point that I immediately noticed, and I was very sad to see.
Which one was that?
That there is no gender concept in PSO2
Oh.
NGS.
Except there
They
is.
are, except there explicitly is, and they will just be type 1 for males and type 2 for females. So you're just renaming male and female.
Yeah,
They still exist exactly as is.
they're exactly as is, just more patronizing.
Yeah. I'm hoping Sega will crack down on the localization team pretty hard.
They've-
If
Yeah, it
Once
seems like the
PSO2
localization
comes out.
team's picked up a college grad in there somewhere.
well, it's like the localization team. They right now have the excuse, well, we're rushing the content out as fast as we can. They can tell that to Sega all day long. But
Mhm.
as soon as PSO2 comes out, that excuse is gone.
Yes.
So any complaints they get about localization post PSO2, they have to actually justify to Sega instead of going, "Oh, we're trying to get it out as fast as we can." So if you make enough noise about something in PSO2, maybe they'll get the message.
Maybe.
That's the hope, anyway. But yeah,
Anywho,
I was going to talk about the audiobooks I was listening to, but I'll save them for later,
sure.
and we can talk about those next week or something.
Sure, because there's some news to talk about this week. Or,
Yep.
Is it the news that
shenanigan.
everybody is talking about it?
So, guys, I'm well behind on this. So, The Hell.
Right. So let's see, where do we start? Okay, so the story actually starts some time ago, like 10 months ago or so, but most of that earlier stuff is not that important because it's about particular individuals involved in the greater movement that has taken place. But basically, America is at present in many places a bunch of people shut up in their homes who have just received a package of money from the government, and they're sitting on their hands and they don't have anything to do. And some of these people are incredibly autistic and hang out on a board called Wall Street Bets on Reddit, which is mainly a board where they basically they talk about the sort of random punts that they take on the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a serious and sober stock market discussion board. It is like the shit posters version of a stock market discussion board, where everybody is a meme lord about it.
Yep.
But they're still talking stocks. It's just in meme lord language rather
Stonks.
than in broker language. Yeah, so they're always stonks.
They're talking stocks.
So they happened to notice that GameStop, because all these people are meme lords, therefore they're also gamers for the most part. They noticed that GameStop, which GameStop's not exactly the healthiest company in the world, or at least that's the impression most people would
put
get.
it nicely.
Because they're pretty much getting annihilated by distribution. So they happened to notice that a particular hedge fund, although there are quite a number of them that were involved in similar practices, I think Melvin Capital, were involved in attempting to do a short sell on the stock of GameStop. Now, the crude summary of this, and this is not any kind of I'm not any kind of finance oracle. My understanding of the stock market is slightly sketchier than Honest Joe's used car dealership. But basically, short selling a stock is where you enter into an agreement with a bunch of other stockholders for a particular stock who they will loan to you their stock, with an agreement that you will return that stock after a fixed period of time. And the short sell is where you basically you short a stock by collecting up a whole pile of stock by borrowing it, and then you will effectively dump that stock and try and trigger a panic sell effectively. As you dump lots and lots of stock, the stock price will come down. Other people will see it coming down and try and the theory is that they will try and rid themselves of that stock and drive the price down further. So at the end of the loan period, you buy the stock back for cheap, and then you return that stock and you pocket the difference between the change in price in stock less the fee used to borrow the stocks. And so basically this is one of many, many common practices undertaken by hedge funds to basically act as vampires on the financial system by crushing the stock prices of ailing companies. So it's a rather distasteful behavior that is totally not market manipulation.
Not at all. Not at all.
According to those people.
Because they've got the money to set the rules.
Yeah,
basically,
according to the television.
Yeah.
That's ostensibly what's going on. So the hedge funds will look for a stock that is a bit feeble. It looks like it's ailing. The company looks like it's not doing very well and is fixing to go down in the near future, and they will short it and they will crush it. And oftentimes the shorting will take place. I don't know the rules of the stock market. There's a lot of complexity there because it's been set up to be deliberately Byzantine. You can short a stock for more stock than is actually available.
Yeah.
And they shorted like 140% of GameStop.
Yeah.
This is unbelievably risky though, because if things don't go your way, you've got to try and cover the difference by buying up as much stock as available at whatever price people are willing to give. So the meme lords at Wall Street Bets saw that there was one particular hedge fund, but also a bunch of others that were going to short GameStop and basically crush the stock price of GameStop into the ground, potentially destroying GameStop entirely and forcing them to declare bankruptcy. Not necessarily, but that was potentially an outcome that could happen. And they decided that, you know what, I've just got this check from the government and I'm sitting at home, and let's play video with the stock market. Like, if you can play a paradox game, you can play the stock market.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of difference.
Yeah.
So they basically started just buying up GameStop stocks en masse, and more people got involved. More and more people got involved. They were dumping in. Eventually, people started dumping in huge amounts of money just on the principle: there's this hedge fund, let's screw them over.
Yes.
They're
So-
vampires on the financial system. We don't need them. We like the stock.
The stock.
So to illustrate to people how big the damage they did with this was, when they noticed what these hedge funds were doing, GameStop stonks were at were at somewhere between $2 and $4.50.
Yep.
Flubbing the phrase GameStop stonks has become the single most commonly flubbed phrase on the internet over the course of the past week. I've
Yes.
seen every conceivable variation of the phrase.
I've seen game stonks where people have just given up.
Yeah, that's what I usually do. But it's and they managed to, at its peak, before some tomfoolery we'll talk about later, that stonk was all the way up to $400 and something.
$468.49.
It was like $2 at the start, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
So-
so yeah, they were
Is-
just buying and buying and buying and buying and holding and holding and holding and holding and refusing to sell because it wasn't about making money. And this is something that the media covering it have gotten categorically wrong over and over. Apart from the
Because-
guy on Fox who seems to think that it's perfectly kosher.
I mean, media.jpg, really.
Yeah, they are convinced that this is a bunch of poor rubes who are investing on risky stock and they don't understand and we need to save them from themselves.
Oh, no, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, this is not about making money. Like, there are guys out there that have lost. I think one guy reported that he'd lost $14 million worth of stock from the peak price as it starts to tumble, because these things go up and down, and he was refusing to sell because it's not about the money. It's about screwing the vampiric hedge funds that were trying to bleed the system dry and crush businesses for profit.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is how a lot of them make their money. Like, I know Ben Shapiro went to bat for the hedge funds because he always does.
He always does.
I mean, no comments about ethnicity, but he does. He is part of that sector of society. He has hedge fund manager friends. And he's like, oh, well-
he's claiming this week.
Well, he's always claiming the same ethnicities. He's only one ethnicity Ben Shapiro is interested in. But he does have, because stereotypes are a thing and they're almost always right, he's got hedge fund manager friends. And so he comes out in defense of them and he's like, oh, well, being a hedge fund manager doesn't mean you're an evil person. But apparently, as time wore on, he said, well, actually, now that I've thought about it, I do know some hedge fund managers who are good people, but almost all of them that I know are actually horrible, cynical sharks who are trying to take advantage.
Way to undermine your own point there, Ben.
It's more, he jumped ship on that as soon as people started making fun of him nonstop.
Yeah, because
Well, people
everyone was
would
in,
make-
I'm
I'm surprised people can I'm surprised he can tell the difference, considering people make fun of him constantly. But
Well, it probably was on his own website, and his own mods were telling him, dude, all the comments on your latest
it's
episode.
like you're getting
hard.
slaughtered out there. But yeah, so this is very much about the principle. Like, well, it's partly about the principle and partly for the lulz. Very few people involved in this from an early stage are interested in making money. They consider this money burned, but it's not about the money. It's about the principle. They are willing to burn a certain amount of money in order to burn the hedge funds involved. And last I heard, totaling up all the damage from all the spin-off phenomena that this has generated, because Game Stonks wasn't sufficient. They started going into Bed Bath and Beyond stock and
AMC theaters.
stock. Yeah, all of the stock that are ripe to be shorted, and hedge funds were moving in, because they tried to cover, a lot of them that were involved in GameStop would try and cover their losses by shorting another stock, and that would make that stock a target. And so they'd have to try and cover those losses.
Yep.
And so they would try and short another stock. And this kept going on. And last I heard, something like $70 billion have been lost by Wall Street hedge funds.
Oh, Melvin filed for bankruptcy, according to Bloomberg, I think.
No, they got bailed out. They got
Did
bailed
they?
out by another hedge fund who was
Okay.
financing it by shorting stock. So I don't know if they're going to stay bailed out. They were bailed out. They lost 30 to 40% of their value. That's some some $5 or $6 billion from a single hedge fund, but across the entirety of Wall Street, the casualties have been about 70 billion. And they're very, 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 very unhappy chappies because they don't like the idea that people who are not Wall Street can now participate in the stock market.
And
yeah,
manipulate
Very
the
upset
stock
about
market.
that. It's only manipulation when the plebs do it. It's not manipulation when Wall Street does it.
Oh,
This
right.
is the
Then
official
that's
line.
just clever trading.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just the market when they do it.
Yes.
They have operated in a world where people did not have the capital to wield their autism in the way that Wall Street Bets has. But after the government just gave everybody money and everybody's ticked off,
And bored.
they just happen to be ripe for the latest attack by the internet autists.
Basically, the new national pastime now that everybody is stuck indoors in America is the short squeeze, which is the name of this process where you squeeze somebody who's shorting a stock because you're basically squeezing money out of them because they've got to try and cover their losses. They have to return all that stock, no matter how high the price gets when the loan period closes out. They need to do it. They're obliged to. They can't get out of that. And if they can't do it, somebody has to bail them out. Or they declare bankruptcy, one or the other.
Yep. And it's genuinely fun for the whole family across political aisles to watch this, because the divide in people that are defending the hedge funds and those that are supporting Wall Street Bets and all the meme lords that are participating in this is not across the traditional lines you would expect it to break. There is no ideological line of any kind that's crossed. There's a little bit, but not much.
This is little people versus big money. That's what this is. This is the private investor versus the Wall Street investor. This is outsider trading versus insider trading, effectively.
Yeah. This is a
And
group of the
people-
little people versus the elite.
Yeah, the little people getting sick of the big money factories just having a free ride.
Yeah.
Another failed characterization that the media has been using as it's just the common people are attacking the rich because they're jealous and they don't understand the stock market and they think it's unfair. It was like no, that's not the case at all. They aren't attacking rich people because Elon Musk is on their side.
Yes.
They're not attacking rich people at all. They're attacking hedge fund managers because hedge fund managers, they are the people that got bailed out in 2008 when the world financial crisis ruined so many people. Like, most of these meme lords would have been growing up, right? And they would have been from families where, they would have had a parent lose a job, or maybe their parents got divorced because of the pressure, or maybe somebody they knew committed suicide because of they had their entire life's work ruined and they didn't feel they had anything left. A lot of people will have gone through rough times, and the government bailed out the hedge fund managers. They didn't notice anything going wrong, ultimately.
Yeah. Besides, the argument that these people don't know they're just in it for whatever reason doesn't hold any water. Like, the layman would not know how to squeeze a fund like these guys are.
Well, it's less about knowing and more about dedicating the entirety of your time to managing what investments you have, because you have to keep your eye constantly on that stuff because it changes literally by the hour.
Yes.
You've got to compare these two environments. They're very, very different. On one hand, you've got a bunch of autismal idiots at Wall Street Bets who are lolling it up and throwing memes back and forth on Reddit, and they are plotting the downfall of American finance from there. They are trading stocks, but the other environment in which trading stocks takes place is it's conversations at cocktail parties between hedge fund managers on Wall Street. It's very private. Only a tiny, tiny section of society can be involved in that. Except that Wall Street Bets is totally open. They haven't concealed anything. This plan was made out in the open, in public. But the finance people, they think the public is beneath their notice. They think the public is not important. It doesn't matter if we destroy GameStop and everybody employed by them loses their job overnight. What does that matter? We'll make a couple of $1 million. No. You're not going to make $1 million. You're going to lose $5 billion. And it's all because you thought that there was a certain class of society who weren't allowed to be involved in your little game.
And that I think is why they're so mad more than anything.
It's
The stock market is a vector for printing free money for your. Well, you don't print it, but for
Essentially,
siphoning money from other people.
Yeah.
All you need to do is make sure that the common man doesn't know how to play it, so that you have less people in there mucking around with stuff, so that you can do these type of things like shorting stocks.
Well, it's not just that, but they sell themselves as brokers to the common man, taking a cut out of everything the common man does when they make their, initial forays into the stock market, because they set the rules, they give the advice, they tell you what stocks you're allowed to buy and not allowed to buy because they're the experts.
Yeah, and that's it.
You can't just buy GameStop because you like the stock in that world.
And that's I think the other thing is where there is a certain level of pettiness that seems to be coming out, where it's like, not only have the plebs invaded this private club of the financially elite, but they're better at the game than the elite have ever been.
It's not necessarily that they're better. It's that they are simply creating the consequences of doing a bad short.
Yes.
Before you often have the situation where a couple of hedge funds will work together to buy and sell off each other to force a stock to go in the particular direction that they want. And in this situation, all that the plebs are doing is they're actually restoring the natural market force that causes you to be punished for overshorting a stock.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all that they're doing. They're doing the natural. This is a fair and balanced market tactic compared to the ones that they're up against. Like, this is an entirely in the same playbook that, I see this hedge fund has overshorted the stock. We can make some money by playing the opposite game if we've got more people than they do. This is part of the way the dealing is done, except that they're not up against a hedge fund. They're against a bunch of autistic retards who, importantly, this is the most important part, they are more interested in making a point by ruining the hedge fund than they are in making money. Because if they were just there to make money, the hedge funds would have gotten out all right, because they would have hit a certain threshold, they would have sold up the stock, the hedge fund would have recovered. No, because these people are not there for that. Their clarion cry has been, we can remain retarded longer than they can remain solvent.
They've actually put that on banners now.
I posted one of their first drafts of the flag somewhere in the politics board.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere. Let's see.
I'll post it in live show chat. I've got it right here.
I don't know where things are currently sitting with this phenomenon.
As of right now, the GameStop stock, damn it, is at $325.
So it is coming down, and part of the reason for
this is off the back of the secondary, the second wind, by the way, which apparently happened yesterday.
Well, the thing is that the second wind was generated for a very good reason, and that's that the elite did not like that the common people were starting to make money at the same game. It was a private party to which they were the only ones invited.
Yes,
and so they pulled out all the stonks to screw over the common man, and this goes right from the top to the bottom. So the Melvin Capital was the first hedge fund to draw attention as being obliterated by Team Wall Street bets, and
hang on a second,
they are owned by they're underwritten by a larger firm called Citadel, and so Citadel has been going around organising the bailouts for these. But the thing is that Citadel is tied, like most big entities in Wall Street, to lots and lots of other edifices. One of these edifices to which Citadel is tied is an app called Robinhood. Now, Robinhood has billed itself as the app to allow the people to participate in the stock market. It billed itself as, Robin Hood, right? You rob from the rich and give to the poor. That's their entire shtick. Except that they're under the control of a major hedge fund backer, and they are the most used tool for the common man participating in the stock market. It's taken them years to build up this brand, but they've gotten to that point where they've got lots and lots of people. The thing is, roughly 50% of Robinhood users own stock in GameStop now. 50% of their entire user base. So this gives a very, very powerful handle for Citadel to crank in order to manipulate the situation, and manipulate they did. They simply, at this stage, for a whole range of stocks, but initially for GameStop, they simply blocked the ability to purchase stock entirely for GameStop. You can still sell because that works in Wall Street's favor. The hedge funds would be really happy if you sold, but
But they won't.
you can't buy anymore. Buying is
So-
for us.
Specifically, the fact that they did not allow people to buy is what has got people posting they violated a whole bunch of laws because they
Yeah,
only
I mean-
allowed trading to go one way. And that is, according to every law I've seen from all the people on state and federal laws with stock trading, it is illegal. All
So-
over the place.
That's
It's
the
very
thing, though.
illegal.
If they pursue people for allegedly breaking these laws and pushing the market, they'd have to then pursue the hedge funds.
Well, it's become a class action lawsuit against Robinhood now.
Yeah, I think
That's again there are more to come, because the next thing that Robinhood did was they exploited their terms of service to forcibly sell off that stock at the closing price on early in the stage. It had closed around 400 odd, and it had closed around 140 or something, and had continued to climb. So until trading opens again, of course, it's not going to be the fixed price. So they decided that they were just going to sell a bunch of their users' stock for them for their own good, because it was a quite risky stock.
Mm-hmm.
And their TOS allows them to do this, apparently. The thing with TOS is that most people don't realize is that lots of TOSs are illegal. Like,
Yeah.
they can't actually be upheld in court. The terms of service, by and large, while it does provide legal protection to a company and serves an important purpose in that, terms of service, mainly when you see radical stuff in terms of service, they exist to keep the poor people down. And I don't mean to sound like a commie when I say that, but they do exist to keep the poor people down because they are easily challenged in court by someone with the money to do it. Because oftentimes a TOS is illegal. If your country has a constitution that is relatively well written, oftentimes it's going to tread across a bunch of stuff. Even if you just rely on common law like most of the Commonwealth does, they're going to be crossing a lot of lines that they don't want to cross with a TOS. They are just putting it in there to make that the default position if you can't afford to legally challenge it. So even though their TOS says that, oh yeah, we can forcibly sell your property for you on our own judgment, that can be challenged in court, and is very likely to be challenged in court going forward.
especially since not everybody was just, somebody that got $600 from the government that did this. There were big names that were playing this game too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There are people in there that have made millions and millions, and there's one billionaire came along to Wall Street Bets and said, I'm gonna chuck $50,000 at a random stock that you guys vote for, and they voted for GameStop, so he chucked $50,000 in GameStop stock and turned it overnight into 500,000, and then he donated that to like the COVID small business recovery charity or something when he was done. But yeah, so there's lots of people throwing around larger amounts of money involved as well, not just people with their stimulus checks. But yeah, so there's a lot of shenanigans going on with illegal stuff being deployed in order to prevent people from being involved in this business, and it goes all the way to the top, I'm afraid. The Joe Biden's new Treasury Secretary is the one who would be monitoring this from a federal government perspective. But yeah, she's received $810,000 in speaking fees from Citadel.
Uh-huh.
The
And
press secretary's
anybody
brother
who-
is involved in this too, isn't she?
I'm not sure. I've only heard about the press secretary. I haven't done I haven't done much research in this. I only know the stuff that's crossed my feed, and by the amount of relatively high resolution detail I've been able to give, you can tell a lot of people have been talking about it, because I haven't gone out of my way to find any of this information. So the for those that don't know, I presume many of our listeners probably already do. Speaking fees is code in the Beltway. It means money that's being sloshed over you to keep you on site. People don't really need to be paid six-figure sums to give a speech. But you
No.
notice the people that do are always names like Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, And in this case, what's this woman's name again? It's like
I forget.
Janet
but-
Yellen or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something, like that.
Yeah, so she's one of these people, and she got an $800,000 ticket in order to give a speech for Citadel. So
I mean, I
Yeah,
would
they-
happily accept 6 figures to stand up and speak absolute gibberish for a bit.
yeah, but that's not what you're really getting paid for, though, is it? Because this is the Treasury Secretary of the United States of America.
Yeah, she's getting paid for her position.
Yeah.
There have been rumors coming out, none of them confirmed, but that at the last time that I saw, like I said, I haven't been doing research. I've only been seeing what people have been saying, but there are rumors going around that there was actually pressure directed from the Biden administration to put the kibosh on this.
Mhm.
And the press conference is actually given by the federal government. When this topic is addressed, they just speak complete garbage, meaningless gibberish. Like the most common thing that gets said when this GameStop scenario is brought up is the press
The press
secretary. Well,
secretary's-
once again, we'll say the Treasury Secretary is the first woman Treasury Secretary or something like that.
Yeah.
How is that relevant?
This is it's the only thing they're willing to say, though, because that's the world they live in. It's just, progressive rhetoric from noon till dusk. Like that's all they're willing to talk about. I say noon because I don't think Joe Biden gets out of bed before noon, and then he calls a lid at 4. But yeah, it's looking pretty awful, and it's mainly provided a situation for a lot of big shadowy entities to demonize themselves in the eyes of their public. And honestly, the Biden administration's not coming off very well. They haven't taken a direct and visible hand in it yet, but it's not looking like they're going to keep their hands clean. And from what I've heard, also, the staff who work at Robinhood were absolutely mutinous at what they were being asked to do.
But it's okay. They got $40 in Dinner Dash coupons.
Yeah, they were given a $40 Dinner Dash voucher from their bosses in order to try and mollify them, and I don't think that was enough, to be
I
honest.
very much doubt that worked.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just the sort of contempt that the higher echelons of the financial world think about people who do a job for a wage.
Yeah, they have no perspective on how much work you have to do every day, what type of work you have to do, or how much a dollar is worth to you as a common person. It's just they don't live in your world. So-
Yeah, well, in their world, money is just a way of keeping score, really. Like, none of them individually are going to spend billions of dollars.
Yeah, well,
Nobody really needs to. And they don't run a business, so they don't need to invest billions of dollars in doing things either. They're entirely vampiric on the system. They don't add value at any point. They simply attach onto something and then leech all the money out of it.
yeah. And
And
these,
I hate this because it makes me sound like a commie when I say this sorts of things. But realistically, they don't do any good for society.
yeah, these people that just accrue money and treat it as a scoreboard like this. If they just sat on it and just took the money away and used it as just a high score, that would be one thing. But they don't.
No, they use it to fund Joe Biden's election. That's what
Yeah.
actually happens with it.
What actually happens is illegal contributions to campaigns.
Yeah, like I think it came out recently. Joe Biden has set a record for the highest amount of quote dark money unquote ever spent on a political campaign.
Yeah, it was absolutely absurd. And that's a whole lot of good money well spent for sitting in his basement not doing anything.
Actually, politically campaigning is for people who aren't well connected. If you're well connected enough, campaigning is redundant.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm just going through an article here, which is, let's face it, is an absolute mess because it looks like they were writing it as things happened backwards. But yeah, apparently it's got all sorts of big names from Congress jumping up and down, including occasional Cortex. Got
Oh,
her-
yeah.
Yeah, that was a real debacle because she objected to it because she's their pet left-wing populist, right?
Yes.
Like left-wing populism as it exists in the United States is completely fraudulent. It's not a real thing. It's just like they
What's-
always throw in with
I mean-
the corporates in the end.
If you ever
What's
wanted the
the-
face of a trust fund kiddie in politics, you can't do better than Occasional Cortex.
Well, yeah, and occasional cortex. I'm not even sure populist is. I know what you're trying to say with it, but she's more like a, what's the Twitter version of a population? How can we twist that word? Because she
I
just
don't
pays
know.
attention to the people on Twitter. She doesn't care about the actual left wingers there.
The thing is, I think that she's not actually clever enough to care about anybody. Period. Like
Except for herself, obviously.
you have to remember that she was chosen as a photogenic nobody to appoint. She did not get to office on her merits. She was a plant. But and I'm not saying this in a conspiratorial way. That she's the political equivalent of a manufactured pop star.
Yeah,
She was chosen. She auditioned for the role. She didn't go to a job interview. She auditioned like a pop idol would, in order to get her position, because that's what they wanted. They wanted a pet person to represent progressive populism, and that's what they got. And you can tell that she doesn't have any real views or anything, because when she came out against the people who are trying to suppress the Wall Street Bets intervention in the market. And she came out quite loudly, because she does everything quite loudly.
She has no other setting.
Ted Cruz retweeted her and said that he completely agreed that Robinhood needed to be investigated for their malfeasance, and she refused to cooperate with him immediately. Immediately shut him down.
Didn't
because
she say that he threatened her life or something?
He said that Ted Cruz had tried to get her killed, and therefore she was not going to cooperate with him. Which is like, there's no way that she believes that.
No, nobody
Even
else
she's
does.
not that dumb. No, nobody believes that. Nobody listening to her believes that. She doesn't believe it. It's a complete farce. But
There's a good bad
all that goes
in the chat.
all that goes to show is that she is just there in order to say the things that she says. Like that's her job. As a politician, her job is to say the type of thing that she says, and that's all. That's her whole purpose. She is not actually intended to represent that point of view. She's not intended to represent the things that she says. She's just there to say them so that it looks like the Democrat Party has a wing that is speaking for people who hold those views. She's not actually supposed to represent them, because nobody in the Democratic Party is interested in representing anybody. That's not what they're there for.
Ooh, they use the word brouhaha. Yeah.
That reminds me of the Terry Pratchett book, The Truth, where
Yes.
they're talking about the type of words that he used to describe something. Like a public brawl is referred to as a fracas.
Yes. Why use a regular word when you have a perfectly fancy word to use instead?
But yeah, occasional Cortex getting involved was just, as far as I'm concerned, that should have been, for anybody with a brain, a mask off moment. That she doesn't actually care about Wall Street at all, because they pay her wage. She's just interested in saying the things she says.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if she really believed it, she really felt that they needed to put the boots to Wall Street because they had induced Robin Hood to take action against innocent participants in the market. If that's what she thought, she would have cooperated to get her agenda done. But it's not her agenda.
No.
She doesn't have an agenda.
So
yeah.
I think the next few days are going to be very interesting on that. I've always been a hater of the stock market and Wall Street way of doing things, because let's face it, it's always been incredibly sketchy.
I find it delightful that the sort of like capitalist leaning Spurgers on Reddit managed to do so much damage to Wall Street, and after weeks of ruining the streets, the Occupy Wall Street left wing equivalent accomplished nothing.
Yeah, they accomplished a meme.
Yeah,
They
were
became a meme.
they were
Yes.
literally turned into a marketing device for certain companies to give more money to Wall Street.
Yes.
But some meme lords on Reddit just managed to completely bankrupt several of the companies.
Yeah, although there is a noticeable pushback on those people now, because their Discord's been banned.
Yeah.
Because Discord is completely corpo, as Elon Musk said.
Yeah, Discord has actually said, they have occasional evidence of hate speech and
Somebody
no.
once said the N-word on their Discord.
Yeah,
I will remind everybody that our Discord has a very important announcement at the top of it, just in case we get yeeted.
yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you just posted a whole wall of nothing but N-bombs for a moment there.
No. In the actual announcement section, everybody
Yes.
that frequents the server needs to read that at the latest post.
Yeah, but nobody, not a single person, has bought Discord's statement on it. They know that they've been bought.
Yeah, and now that all the money has been poofed from number manipulation in the internet, now that it's not an election year anymore, you're noticing the ratios on stuff are a lot nastier, not in favor of certain people.
Yee. Although there is a certain degree of smugness everyone's starting to derive from all the proceedings now.
So I think we're going to start winding down on the GameStonk story finally. It was a week-long fun time to have on the other screen while I was doing other stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, the short shares, most of them have had to be bought out by the end of the week, or brought back by the end of the week, because usually, from what I understand, most of these shorts are for very short durations because of the natural unstable nature of the stock market.
Well, yeah, you're making a bet on a particular direction of market volatility. You're not going to try and do that over a long period of time. That's silly.
Yeah.
So most of them have had to be returned by now.
And it cost a lot of money to a lot of very upset people.
Yeah, you might see some people sitting on the stocks just a little bit longer, just to make sure they get a couple more stock trust funds. But yeah, I think we'll see it swing out.
I think that it's quite likely that a lot of the people who have the game stonks are just going to hold on to them, if nothing else, as just mementos.
In some cases,
Yeah.
yeah.
Of the time we ruined a hedge fund just because we felt like it.
I think they won't even need that. They're just gonna be like, all right, we burned that money to screw over the hedge funds, and then just forget about it a few months from now. It'll just be sitting there, permanently bought. They're not working with any kind of stock manager or anything. They just bought it through Fidelity or something and have it sitting around not moving.
That's just an entire line of stonks that cannot be accessed by the hedge funds anymore.
Well, if they want it, they're going to pay a lot of money. We did, and we played it for you during the music break.
Yep. Incidentally, has there been a statement from what GameStop actually thinks about all this?
I don't think they've said anything. I haven't been able to find anything.
I wonder if they actually figured out what the hell is going on yet.
If I were them, I would just sit tight and not say anything.
Yeah,
too much can go wrong.
That would be the smart move. Is just sit back, enjoy the show, and enjoy actually having stocks worth something for a change.
Yeah, do not make the public angry at you in any way, shape, or form. Don't try and defend the elite, because then they're all going to turn on you and sell the stocks and go attack the hedge funds with somebody else. You want you want people to be sitting on that stock. Yeah. And then
I think we're going to find out before too long just how petty and spiteful these people are.
Oh my, yes.
A week of holding a stock when it's reached several thousand times its original stock price, or several hundred times its original stock price, is pretty dang good.
Yeah.
But these people are genuinely insane and are not going to sell this stuff. So I don't think Wall Street's going to win. They picked a fight with internet audits. You never win against those. When has anybody ever won against those? Every single person that fights internet audits gets totally owned. Shia LaBeouf has been owned like 4 times by himself.
I think that's actually higher now.
He's sort of the master of getting owned by the internet.
To be fair, he really brought it on himself.
Barbara Streisand got a whole new term dumped into common vernacular when she tried to take on the internet audits.
Yeah. Yep.
You just don't win.
You just don't.
Yeah, there's no reason to play that game. The only reason the Wall Street did is because they just didn't think that the little people were worth anything.
Yeah. So, this is why you go out of your way not to attract the attention of what we would traditionally think is the 4chaners, although they're now across many different websites. But these are the same type of people, just specifically focused on stonks.
Yes.
Like, you don't want to attract the attention of that group. You especially don't want to attract their ire in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, it's been fun. I think it's going to have ramifications we ain't gonna like. So I hope we enjoyed this week.
The thing with those ramifications are, I think that it's just a win from top to bottom right now because it's all going to be mask off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Find out exactly who they are.
I guess it's just more evidence of who's corrupt, and it gives people less political capital and leverage to spend if they got to take the mask off. That's about the only victory we can take at this point, since we can't vote them out.
All right. So we might touch on again next week if anything happens, but I think this has all run its course now.
I think that it's 2021. We can't rule anything out.
Yeah. The year's only just starting, and I think it's going to get much, much sillier from here on.
Like that, we haven't even talked about the fact that Gamergate has been deemed responsible.
No, of course it has. Of course it has.
You know, I'm starting to warm to the idea, like
of the.
I mean, obviously, it's ridiculous, and it's just the Gamergate lives rent free in their heads, right? But it did sort of represent an inflection point where a bunch of people who were just happy to play video games were drawn into the political world.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they wanted to be there, but because, you know, basically progressive politics wouldn't leave them alone, and they were forced to become involved.
They didn't join politics.
They can't put that awareness away any longer.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about politics all the time now because they invaded our space.
Yeah, we just want to play video games, man.
I mean, this used to be a completely apolitical show for the most part, very, very early in its history, and then they came and invaded our stuff.
Yeah.
Your political pundits and Ari stopped being a libertarian. Thank goodness.
All right, that's basically all the news this week. Is just has been Game Stonks. There's been a few announcements about release dates, but
what have you got for us? You got anything juicy?
Not really.
I'm playing Skyrim, man, because there's no good games coming out.
Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I say I come home just to do something with my hands with PSO2. There's nothing I want to play right now, and nothing's coming out except for Hollow Knight, which has TBD as its release date.
That's been TBD for the longest time.
Yeah, they're a small team, and they live in your country, and I think they live in the Victoria area.
No,
so
I'm
they've
pretty
been
sure
kind
actually
of.
they're in Brisbane.
Then maybe they weren't hit as hard.
Look. Let's see, Team Cherry. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that looks like it's going to be coming out in March. Namely, Evil Genius 2.
Speaking of, did Gabian commit to moving to New Zealand?
No idea.
I know he gave that interview, and he seemed to be pretty keen on the idea of just uprooting Valve and relocating them in New Zealand.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. No, we were both wrong. They're in Adelaide.
Oh.
But how do they make games with no electricity?
Oh,
I
yeah,
can't
that
even
would.
remember what state Adelaide is in.
No electricity would
Australia.
make a game pretty hard to program.
Yeah, they decided that South Australia, for those who don't know, decided they were going to go heavy renewables way before they were supposed to and shuttered all their coal generation. And then suddenly wondered why their power generation wasn't up to scratch.
What did they think was going to generate the power for them?
Yeah. And more to the point, they didn't just shutter their last coal plant, they blew it up.
Why?
Because I guess they don't know what the word irony means. But yeah.
Isn't that the place that Tesla had to come in and help bail out by putting electric batteries on all the houses?
Yeah, I think that was it. Incidentally, you can now play Cyberpunk on a Tesla.
It cannot run Doom.
Probably. Why does a car
Depends
need
on-
an internal gaming system?
Because Elon Musk.
Oh, right. Enough said then,
You know-
really, isn't it?
I had a bunch of people that were iffy on Elon Musk, but I really think he's harmless. He's just that crazy guy that builds all the fun stuff.
He's a mad, rich, meme lord. Like,
I think
oh,
that
what's
if
his
more
name?
rich people were like him, the world would be a better place.
Richard Branson, I believe, is the other one. Owns Virgin, ends up having picnics on top of hot air balloons.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a little different than building rocket ships and selling flamethrowers to the masses.
This is true.
Where else can the masses get their flamethrowers if not for him?
From
He's a hero.
space. Duh.
I mean, he
Well,
does
how would
the-
they get to space without him?
Exactly. He's got it all monopolies on space flamethrowers.
And he's the only guy that's actually trying to figure out the problem of if the government's going to force us to go to clean transportation, how do we make a car work for it?
Yeah.
He's got questionable taste in four-wheel drives, though.
He does. He
Yes,
does.
his choice of aesthetic is regrettable.
Oh man, if we had money and we were like Elon Musk, that would be
I
horrifying.
admit I would do stupid crap with money, ridiculous money as well.
I would turn into some kind of creature of the same species as Elon Musk very quickly.
Yeah,
I
as
don't-
long
I
as
don't
you've got
think
a
I
self-perpetuating pool of money.
I don't think I would. I think I would spend I think I would spend a large quantity of money trying to reclaim like the old buildings that are getting knocked down from like the medieval period and whatnot. Like all of the old churches which have just been abandoned.
Mm.
I think that I would want to recover and renovate them if I had infinity money.
Yeah,
That's history right there.
that is history. There is some cool stuff like that you'd have to do. But yeah. But on the other hand, get in on the flamethrower.
It doesn't
train.
mean I'm not gonna. It's not. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be buying stocks in the Elon Musk flamethrower company.
Yeah, stonks.
Oh man. But yeah, the big takeaway this week, I think, more than anything, is the stock market has been demystified to the public a lot for this.
Mhm.
And
It's now no longer something that is like this bizarre thing like the weather that happens by itself and only the climatologists can comprehend it. Now they know that normal people can be involved, and I think that the involvement of your typical average Joe in the stock market is likely to significantly increase in future.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
which is good for everybody that isn't, a $1 zillion company, because that means more people paying attention to smaller stocks.
Stonks.
Stunks. So yeah, it's been a fun week. Hopefully, the governments of the world don't totally spurg out over this.
Oh, they're going to. I mean, why
yeah,
react when you
they're
can
already-
overreact?
Yeah, they're already using it as leverage. It's going. That's what I'm worried about more than anything else. Is what is this accelerated down the pipeline?
Yep. Right. So one other minor little thing. Just a funny little doody-doo I spotted. Don't Nod. The game company that the wokest game company in the West is now the wokest game company in the East.
Yes.
Yeah, Tencent bought a minor stake on them, so
It always starts like a minor stake.
that's how it always starts.
That they always buy 1 to 5%, and then they get somebody on the board, and that somebody gives a whole lot of very, very important people a whole lot of personal money, and then all of a sudden your company's bowing to China.
And it couldn't happen to nicer people.
Yep.
All right, I'm just quickly flicking through other things. Might actually come back to this one next week, as there's this whole article about Capcom's latest statement. Basically, they've put a big old pickaxe through the concept of loot boxes. They don't want them.
Well, yeah, if they focus all their development efforts on just making a good game, as Devil May Cry 5 and Resident Evil 7 have shown,
And
the game will
Monster
just
Hunter.
sell.
Yeah,
And Monster Hunter, the game will just make you a ton of money.
yeah. Make a good
Especially-
game, and you don't need it.
Especially when we have a drought of good single-player games.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, we have plenty of single-player games, We have plenty of decent, okay games, but none of them are just that have love and attention focused solely to making the game as good as possible. Because the only way you're making a profit off this thing is if enough people talk about it and like it enough that a ton of people buy it.
Yeah, sadly,
Or
we
trying
don't
to
get
get the
as good as
opportunity.
possible from a lot of studios anymore. We get good enough.
Yep.
So anyway, we should probably start looking at wrapping up.
Yep.
Did we seriously talk about stonks for the whole show?
We talked about
Yeah.
stonks and finance and money and
Yeah.
stonks.
I learned a ton of stuff about stonks this week that I didn't know before, and I was I had casual interest in them briefly for a period, so I was a little bit read in on how stonks work. But so much stuff became so demystified this week that even I learned a ton of stuff I didn't know before.
Yeah.
I don't want to
just
consider for a moment that I know anything about them, lest I be tempted to become involved.
Yeah, you don't want to. Like, I
Yeah.
only knew enough to write the whole lot off as hopelessly corrupt.
I need you to get involved in stonks, Vol, and here's what you need to do. You need to buy a whole lot of stonks in whatever company you want. Give me 3 months, and then after you've sold your stocks, I'm going to immediately buy all the stocks you just sold, and then we're going to make a huge profit because your luck is terrible. So the stonk is going to skyrocket as soon as you sell your stocks.
You know, I can't find a fault in that logic.
It doesn't really benefit me, though.
No, it doesn't.
Not if we're not sharing the pool of money. We just treat it as a no excuses fund split between the two of us.
Yeah, but as long as I'm involved, it's not going to be successful.
Exactly.
Well, I'll split it with Fern, and then he can find a way to ferry it over to you in a boat.
So you
Something.
just like
In a
karma
boat.
laundering?
Oh man. So yeah, write to us about the game stonks.
And don't forget to include your favorite memes.
Yep.
The
We
memes
will,
have been the best part, in my opinion.
The memes are always the best part.
I love when a real world event happens that just is right meme fuel that just goes for a whole week like this.
Yeah.
I think that the reason why this was able to be successful was memes.
Oh, definitely.
I think the memes is what really provided the fuel, both to keep holding, and also to keep increasing the number of people involved.
It's one thing
Yeah.
that, like, the mainstream media, politicians, all of that sort of, establishment type thing always fails to underestimate is just the sheer power of the meme.
Oh yeah, because they don't interact with common people. They don't know what common people find funny. They try to make fun of common people that use, whatever language isn't approved today. So
Yep.
they can't make memes.
Yeah, they can't meme. And every time they try to meme, they just completely miss what the whole
Hello,
thing actually is.
fellow kids.
Yes.
Pokemon Go to the polls.
Ah! That one was painful, physically painful.
She made a meme, all right. It's not the way I think she wanted to.
Not the meme she wanted to. No.
Most people who want to make a meme don't want to become that meme.
Yeah. Although there was a period where big companies did learn to meme briefly, and that's what got us the Silence brand meme.
Well, that happened because they put Zoomers in charge of their social media,
Yes.
which caused other problems because Zoomers are young and inexperienced and know how to cause all kinds of corporate liability problems, but don't know why they're happening.
And they also dumb as shit.
And with that, let us get out of here, shall we?
All right, folks. We'll see y'all next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.